ekukufu fe pekekeji akeshi ye chadoe kuna cheni ekwashi konjia no eyabamle akeshi la traditional council ke amehewon chei ke akeshi ke 2006 ke bagwe 2017 ne nomliye abemmen ni kwo nakan ni bia no ni ji chado shipon jin no ewo amebahala men pa anyo ni ji 8 ni amekra chado shipon ni ene ni kwado kropon ni ji klen teshin gelen ni ke sani ete court akeshi dabi aye akranshin ko ni kwa chado shipon no ni mi ni kwado kropon inji amenosen no talo ewo nye ni teshin nye ba ka akeshi no ja ke chado shipon ke je 2006 abeme ni kwa no ni no ewo nye ba farming na ni kwadi okropon ke sani ete kojomo sen kojolo ke ni kwado okropon trust ni leke le damono ebe na kan hegbe ewo ni kwadi okropon ke se bi asane chefo ni kwado okropon susu ake kojolo ka me ya yi ojogba ewo ne wo sane ekete appeals court ni appeals court bote sane fm liye eyosi ake shigbe no ni kojolo ye high court we kwe ni ewo ni kwade ma sane chefo ya lo ojogba ewo kechodo no ni ebo ni kwade okropon ma sane etwe ne ye sane eke ha meta ake ameke ba fon appeals court we hie ewo kechodo no ni kwade okropon le ake chairman of East Dadekotopon Development Trust ke le ho executive secretary Emmanuel Dweyemo intao ni mambi ife ana ali akeshiamro ne aye sane ha me ni no ha me no mima ni amekwo chado shipon fe no ni kenokwe ebini ake ame ashra Ablade bi na smo ya Blade TV no won gbe no ke no strotoku ni hemosen ketashin eja akeshi ne ke no ne obasmo ni oli Emlyn Creek deke fe ka obala ayehe ko ni nomie la me hu ejeme ni mi obodai amobi akegbe ke fio nke nya nu nkotai wata ejeme wa telegmo mi kekenten ke jejeme ke bala mamlin ababa ho ka mo ke kroko bani fatai ne ke ne lame ke gadamwe bi lejeme akeshi chado ne ke hene huwe nyese na chojeme East Dadekotopon mene ko te jeme jenin adun ejeme don je gmoshin jijeme shimbowe efe concrete seko ni amamotun babao ke pajeme nomliye achekuko nigbeji East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni ekwe jeme kramono ke boni akeshipon ba ha ka akeshipon ha ke no fe no shi ne ke trust ne ba she ekwe abana enyo ni mene ko kwendie ihe grafiku ehesaneba ni nkeboba abote neken trust issue semlin afia edwamamlin ne ya cover press conference ko ye chado ni nomlin ni obuo Fred Afful ni eke ehwonche ni amenchom li akebe amemon ni amrone akamewu trust no na mekwe chado shiponjie ano ni nekeno ne ebe ni shikitele ni jila shikitele heyemle ko la manche ke ehwonche ife amba kane bemli ni age trust shike no ni teke no ni ba ke kroko be fe ni fatai menegbene no watashi ne ke chongolo ne ni hie no e chomle akeshi be ni obuo Fred Afful ke ehwonche ye ni nyese kwe ameke wogbasane be aya win case against ame ni nekeno ne nohi agma yewulo ne no ni mimba makane ke habo ni a publishipo ye noja keshi daily graphic kemlin your namely no 2022 ni mini jigbe ni kano ni makande mahabwe eke East Dadekotopon Development Trust wins court of appeal case against La Traditional Council ni obuo Fred Afful and Co ni jimenkro komeni fatahi akeshibe East Dadekotopon Development Trust eye kunim ye court keshi La Traditional Council le ni obuo Fred Afful ke menkro komeni fatahi wo mafele papa makande po e komeye blofu emli be agbene nkeba gamlin habo ni nyeme ni nye your properties ke ni bi ye jeme mi na kenye ba take interest yemlin ke agbene laman bi fe ke menkro komeni fatahi e John Kel. The general public is hereby notified that the Court of Appeal on 16th December 2021 overturned the decision of the High Court, Accra, presided over by His Lordship Amuya Teje, delivered on 31st July 2017 in favor of East Dadekotopon Development Trust, led by East Dadekotopon Dev't, its chairman. Chomli akeshi amentawo ni mambi fana meli. Akebe Court of Appeal ye December nyoni huwe 2021 yesene no jake buamoku ni High Court ko ebua in 2017 ne neke Court of Appeal ne eba wona kan buamo chafo ni neke no ne ni awo achafo ne eteke ha East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni kwado kropon jimoni ji eno chairman ne le jimoni eyekunim alo abwa kehale ni mini ji emlinti bliye no jino ni nkebu abo temlin amrone neke jibone yale. It may be recalled that on Thursday, April 20, 2017, Dela Manche ni Kobitete through the third and some two persons near J. Kofe the fourth and ni Benjamin Kojoyambo holding themselves out as members of the La Traditional Council and settlers of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust, published in the Daily Graphic that since 2006, no trustees had been appointed to the trust, and so they had appointed some 8 persons as the new trustees of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust, with effect from March 2017. Upon the publication, Nia Jebuahin II, Dengmati Abunase Manche, who led Dengmati Abunase Quarter in suit number Neke that led to the formation of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust, and the chief who executed the trust deed of 10th April 2002 on behalf of the Ngmati Abunase Quarter, caused a rejoinder to be published in the Daily Graphic of May 23, 2017, denying the first publication by the La Traditional Council and confirming that the trust had a duly constituted board of trustees led by Dadekotopon Dev't, its chairman. Other major stakeholders in the trust, such as the Kwe Quarter and the Abese Quarter of La, the 2 quarters that by custom provide the occupants of the last 2, all came out denying and denouncing the false publication by the La Traditional Council and confirming that there was indeed a board of trustees led by Dadekotopon Dev't. Indeed, even Ni Benjamin Kojoyambo, who was alleged to have a signatory to the said false publication, came out in the Daily Graphic of 21st April 2017, distancing himself from the said publication. Many jinoni nekenone kel. Eke kajinye fenye ba kaye ye 2017 mamlinye. La manchene ne ekwete ni kobitete tru ni jiete. Ke la shikitele ni jinyaje kofe. Ke ni Benjamin Kojo Yambo. Ni nomliye amehia keshi members ke ha La Traditional Council le. Amebafe publication ko ye Daily Graphic emling akekeje afi 2006 emling anako meni ba kra chado shipon ye East Dadekotopon Development Trust no niji board of trustees no ni kechondo no he wonge neke onupai etetana chine amebakwe ka me he wonche ni amebahra meni ameyisho kpanyo ni no jake amame kra neke chado shipon jine ni bemli na mefe neke publication ne ye Daily Graphic mi ye 2017 ne mli pekeke ni abamli akeshi ni ajebuahi ni jenyo ni achona ake leji Ngmati Abunase Manche ni ye na kan bia mli le edamo Ngmati na ke ha kotu sanji komena ye chado shikonji an hebdani po ibala akeshi anyeni ache neke East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni agbene nwe ton bona mewie ye blofu emli who executed the trust deed of 10th April 2002 on behalf of the Ngmati Abunase Quarter. Ye na kan bia mli mfe a chomle ake ni ajebuahi ne leje moni edamo Ngmati na ke ha gbejiano to ni ato ke ha chado shiponji ni wolone nchomle yake le kredeji Ngmati Abunase Manche ni ameke rejoin that the Daily Graphic emli na men ke shei yakeshin noni La Traditional Council le la Manche ke la shikitele ni aje ko fe ke he wonche ame agma akeshin anako board of trustees ebemli mfei shimonwe aye board of trustees ni nomli ameye jeme ni kwado kropon ni ji clen ji eno se no talo ni ji chairman ni ake je ni aje bo ahimpe tehieshi shin eya bamlin akeshi kweme ke agbene ho abese mefe teshi ameshi nekeno ne akeshi ebamlin fei keji la manche ke he wonche traditional council le ba akeshi be abe board of trustees onukpa ni ko chado shipon ne no ni amete no ameka akeshi no mi ni Benjamin Kojo Yemo ni achon no ni la traditional council bi ya publish ye daily graphic emli le enine yo hihye poe ejekpo ne ba wie ye publication komlin akeshi na kan no elehe ko ake la traditional council ke abe onukpa ni ko chado shipon no shinle awoye no ne ba foedi ye he ni femo ne te no ni ke akeshi bemli ni neke news report alo publication ne fe eba howe ebamli akeshi on 28th April 2017 the trust led by its chairman ni kwado Kropon the first and the incumbent trustees sued the La Traditional Council and the three personalities that claimed to have appointed new trustees, as well as the 8 persons they alleged to have been appointed in the High Court, Accra, in suit number neke. Ewa benli ni La Traditional Council le ka abo nukpai. Ni nojake ni ajebu ahin ke he wonche unke ayo nukpai ni kwado Kropon ji monita na kan onukpai ahin alo amesen no. Abamliaka agbene be ni kwado Kropon ni ji clen die che hu ba hulu edamoshin ake no ni ya no esa ni ya no na kan le eke wonche ye ni ameji trustee se ke ha no jake shi East Dadekotopon Trust Development Trust ameke sani ete court ni na ameke sani ete court we na meji meni ameke sani yashi alo amasiu abe amete ni amasiu La Traditional Council le ke men ete ni wachi ametamla mi ji la manche ne ekwete ni kpobitete true ke la shikitele ni aje ko fe ke agbene huwe be Benjamin Kojo Yemo ni amasio ameye High Court we ewo ye bi ene mi na ke shake plenty fe ni ji monike sane ete eji East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni kwade Okropon damona boni achon ye bi ene ni meni akesane ya chia me fe atamachi ne clen moji La Traditional Council le ni bi ke yamo ni aje ko fe ni je edwe akela shikitele ke ni kpobitete true ni je eten la manchede na ekwete Samuel Sowa Oblejuma ke Jerry Odoi Israel Gonti aje Enoch Adosowa Joseph ni Odoi Mensa Andrew ni Odoi Yemo ni Obuofred Afful Robert Okpoti Mensa ke agbene Lands Commission ewa na mete na mamenye ni ehie ke agbene menpanyo ni ake amenomlie majache me fa amake amekwe trust no ye 2017 namely many yo ne can suit namely makane ye blofo emly mabu ake in the suit the East Dadekotopon Development Trust claimed the following reliefs ni kwado Kropon ke isebi e bemli na mapo ye kojo mosen hie ene meji ni bi ni ameba ake court we afi ha me ameke clen no a declaration that the La Traditional Council has no lawful authority to appoint the trustees of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust ake La Traditional Council le amebe hegbeko ake ye mla na ameba halame ni amamefe trustees no kweloi ke ha East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni ja crunching na ameba kwe chado shipon jin baba o ne fe no La Traditional Council benakan higbe noni jenweke a declaration that the purported appointment of the 5th to 12th defendants as trustees of the East Dadekotopon Development Trust as published by the first defendant in the Daily Graphic of Thursday, April 20th, 2017 is now and void and of no effect whatsoever. Ake menpanyoni La Traditional Council leke wonche hana publish ye Daily Graphic mliake amemonji meni afa ni Obuofred Afful me chairman no jake shame ba kojo mo se hie akeshi nekeno ne ayosia keshi ebemlin fei akola keshi nomli poe atokwame alo ahala kwame crab ye blofom ya ba aka keshi now and void and of no effect whatsoever ake ameka na hewaleko amebe hewaleko ko to aka ake na ka ame akranhie awo achafo ni amebe hewaleko kra ni amefio noko ye chado shiponji ahi no ni jieten ameka keshi an order directed at the defendants from holding themselves out as trustees or the lawful authority to deal with the East Dadekotopon Dev't Trust lands situated behind the Ghana International Trade Fair in any way. Well, Bemli na gbene court to eba fan akeshi nye meni nye kela traditional council bi ehra nye be na kan hewale ni nye be hewale ko nye ke ba afi no ko ke court to e fan na kan yitan alo egbamle npo ne hani amele level tan ekuse ni ehana amele akeshi amebe hewaleko alo hegbeko ni ameba nye la mamlin alo eba ya ni chumo he alo eba nye fe he ni ameke akeshi be ameji meni amehie na kan hewale ni ameko chado shikon jie ano neke chado shikon ne no ka trade fair se ye la ni no ni je dwa na ameba court we ameke an order declaring void any contract, lease, or title document executed by the defendant in respect of the said trust lands. Bemli ni amenye na amenye kuchuemli ni ameka akeshi ameji ame ni ameji me ni amekwo chado shipon no bele shipon fe shipon ni ameka ameni ne ewo shishi ni ame hon nke ha menke ekrokume ni fata here ameka ake court we afa ni nakaimajia ni bie court where Afful family thing akeshina kaini BF they avoid ake bemling ninoni jedumo an order directed at the Lands Commission Land Registration Division restraining them, their agents, servants and privies from processing or registering any document emanating from the defendant in respect of the said trust lands. Aka member kojomo saying here lo kojo law Bemli ne follow contract family ke leases ke kroko me family atan e Lands Commission niji Lands Registration Division ne e fame koni document feni baba me hi ni je chado alo e ko chado shikon jian here ameka sign alo ameka process ne ken documents ne ameka register ye gbeko no ni ebaba la akeshi be me ni atwa akeshi ame be na kan hegbe ni ni obu Fred Afful ke la traditional council ke ni shigitele ke amehe wonche efe document ni ameke ba ha me alo ameke ha me efe ebale akeshi ka ke ba Lands Commission ne ameka sign ni e take any effect na gbe no na me ba call to eji perpetual injunction restraining the first to third defendants, their agents, servants, privies, and persons claiming through them from entering, alienating, or in any way dealing with the said trust lands. Bemni na fia me fe na hana me level lita. Ni kwado krupon. Ba, ko tuwe alo kojolo, koni eke klalowa, ama la traditional council le, ke ni aje kofe, ni obo Fred Afful, BK Yamo, ke amehewon chiefe ano. Boni afe ni amekanye amebote chado shikpono ni ameafe no ni kama ametwi no. Iwo ene meji boni alo ni bi ni trust board yaba kojomo sen alo yaba kojolo. Ebemi na ya siwa me na ba ni bi ne fe yaba la keshi me fe atana chi amo me lawyers ya pue ye kojomo sen here na gbene arana ye jeme ni akakeshi in the ruling of the High Court delivered on 31st July 2017. His Lordship Amuya Teje held that the plaintiff trust lacks the capacity to institute the suit and therefore dismissed the action without going into the merits of the case. Bemli na ya rana ye court we etan ake kojolo ni tasani no ye gbin ni 31st July 2017 ne ebwa akeshi meni ka mesani eba fon ehie ni jibe ni kwado krupon ke amehewon che ni ameka ameko East Dadekotopon Dev't Trust land say no kojolo bwa akeshi ame trust alo akranhie na ameka ma ameta no ebe na kan hegbe alo ame be na kan hegbe ni eba bala keshi ameba ba meba siu la traditional council be ye kojomo saying here amebena kan capacity that the trust lacks the capacity to institute the suit and therefore dismiss the action ni ake ibala keshi ni kojolo ke amebena kan capacity amebena kan gbena lo higbe ni sani eni ikebafon alo amekebafon here ni ego ni che ifon. Being dissatisfied with the decision of Amuya Ateje, the trust appealed to the Court of Appeal on 11th August 2017 on a number of grounds, which stated, among other things, that in view of the documentary evidence on record that the plaintiff trust has been duly incorporated under Act 106 with perpetual succession and the right to sue and be sued in its corporate name, the learned judge committed an elementary and fundamental error of law by holding that the plaintiff has no capacity to bring the action. Ake ni ebala ake court we wo ni kwado kropoma sani eche fon. Ake na me mi asha me ni amesusu ake no ni kojolo fe ya amlin ojogba iwo. Ame tekekete enwengbe ni ameti appeals court ni ame appeali ake sani akuse ni akwemlin ekon ni miniji amesusumo ni ji be ni kwado kropon amesusumo ye da ken bi amlin. Ame ka keshi ame hien woji nke no fe no ni yo hudasi akeshi trust ahia womlin ojogba ni nyo edamo enajiano yemlana ni ketono no abanye ni asiu ne ke company ne lile nwe ba anye asiu ni ketono no be kojolo ni eka keshi ame be na kan hegbe ebemlin fei ni esa ni kunle enyo efio na kan wo be eton yemlana akeshi eyabo no jake ni kwade okropoma sani emlin twe krede ni ebua kehame. The learned judge committed a grievous error of law when he bluntly refused to follow the decision of the Supreme Court on the capacity of the trust to sue and be sued in its corporate name as determined in the case of the Republic. Biene huameke noko fatahi akeshi kojolo ye high court we ni nojake ewo ni kwado kropoma sani eche ifon atonwa ake eyabote saneko na ye mlamin ni nojake shi Supreme Court weji heni ayena kan sani ye be amenfe ne kemma amesani no mi be poe ne hwe mafele papa ni ko be sajie ni kwado kropoma mfe ni amengbla mi akeshin ni bi straw to ye ni yo hudasi akeshi kojolo ya fi ni ojogba alo eyaton ni eyabo amewie mo toi wo maka ni no ye blofoming shra kuna gbene wo ya no. In the light of the serious and controversial issues raised by the parties in the pleadings and processes filed, the learned judge committed a fundamental error of law by dismissing the action in limine. IV, the learned judge erred in law by failing to allow the case to proceed to trial for evidence to be taken and tested before giving his judgment, which error led him to deny the plaintiff fair trial. The learned judge failed to properly and judiciously examine the application to dismiss the action, which failure led him to uphold the application, which did not satisfy basic judicial requirements for such applications. The learned judge failed to handle the case in accordance with his judicial calling by failing to deliver a written and reasoned judgment ruling based on the processes before him, and thereafter failing to release the short ruling read in open court to the plaintiff after demand and repeated follow-ups. Chona ke kojolo eya bote sanjiamling ojogbang ni ebabua sani ni ebabote mlinvin ne ebo mefe atoi boni afe ni kejipo eba akojwe ne kojo yegbeno na ba na keshiu ene ojegbe oke party se fe eyele ojogba be imolekpo ne keke habu na gbeno na me ke jiake. In the light of the processes and evidence before the court, the learned judge demonstrated a strong bias in favor of the defendant, contrary to his judicial oath, thereby dismissing in limine the serious case brought against the defendants. Allo defendants, chona akeshi Yegbefe gbeno ke nibi ni kwado kropon me ka me he won che nibi na me ke ba hwe kojo lo hie ke family alo fe se ne wo amesande e che fon ame yosi akeshi e ka me ya ye ojugba shi e ke noja akeshi defendant se niji la traditional council BM na ma me ke sane e ba shi ame kojo lo ka me mo yaye ni e akwe ni kwado kropon ma hie akeshi e yaye sane ke shi ame ye gbenoni taflache ejalo isa nyawo ya no abrone won ba bo noni appeals court hu yo hwemo ye amesane ehi eke in the judgment delivered by the Court of Appeal on 16 December 2021 benye se ne no Court of Appeal le ba boasane e bemleni High Court to a Wosania chair for in 2017, what take it 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, Afie Jamamli ne, Dani Kojomo Eba, ni Akene Kenone, Kojolo ni Tano G, Senyo Jamefe, presiding le Tasanieno, ni meni wale ke Kojo G, Bright Mensa, ke Agbene Jennifer Dodu, ni Eabalake de upheld the appeal of the trust and set aside the decision of Amuyate dated 31st July 2017 as a nullity in law. Befianke biaji heni otie yo ni atawo ni manfale. Akebemle ni kojo law e tasani emle ni amekwe. Amewo na kan klen kojo mo ni kojo lo niji Amuyate bua echefo. Ni nekenji boni blofo ekele. Upheld the appeal of the trust and set aside the decision of Amuyate ake noni kojolo Amuyate fe ni ego nojake ni kwado kropon masanie eche for ye high court we appeals court we ke na kan kojomo is void e bemlin fe e wo be amego ame achafo ni sanie ni kwado kropon me ke ba fon amehie ni ji kojolo ahi amemono momlin twe akeshi no jino ni ebini akeya hie ni kechono no ni ona akeshi yicho ni ka publication ne no ji akeshi East Dadekotopon Dev't Trust wins Court of Appeal case against La Traditional Council ni Obuo Fred Afful Co. Nya woboti akojomo mlin ojugba agbene. In coming to the above conclusion, the court held, among others, as follows. Our conclusion is that the learned trial judge certainly did not adopt the best practice or the appropriate approach when it dealt with the application. In consequence, he fell into a serious error of law when the trial judge summarily dismissed the claim of the appellant. To begin with, instead of the learned trial judge adopting the well-established principles as stated supra, he regrettably chose to raise the issue of capacity of the plaintiff and summarily dismissed the claim when the application placed before him was anchored on Odaneke. In other words, the learned trial judge pursued a course of procedure that denied a party to the cause the right to be heard. No yobe nonin kanene ji nomima alo Jaji se ni buani amekemo ni ekukufo ji akeshi Justice Amuyate ni ebuani e achon gbedo ni ali akeshi sake kojo lo BPE amechono best practice ni ali or the appropriate approach e achon gbedo ni sa ni ekekwe sane ni akebafon ehie ni kechono no e aton ni e abala akeshi e yawo ni kwadi masane we need to add that the process by which an issue of capacity of a party may be raised for consideration and determination is quite different from the processes and the parameters set out in Order 11. The lower court, pursuing a course of procedure the parties never anticipated, the effect was that it did not give the appellant the opportunity to be heard on the issue of its capacity to sue. Without giving hearing to the appellant before summarily dismissing the claim, the lower court was in serious breach of the rules of natural justice. Nojake golo eteno ni e chomli akeshi gbenoni nomli high court to e chono ni eke party se ne be hie ya shran eya ye ebu ameni ke amesanie bafon no jake shin amehi ejake no mi ama pa agba ke kojolo e ba bua sanie ye gbenoni e achon ni kechon no ni e abala ke no hewonge e ya bo no jake ni kwado kropon ma na wie motoi ake abo mo na wie motoi krede da na abo le fo alo awo esane acha afon alo abo asane ha le Kojolo Eyafe Nakai Akeshin, it did not give the appellant the opportunity to be heard on the issue of its capacity. Eyabwe na yemotoi ye ake egbenamli be ake trust be nakai gbena ni no wona wo amesani eche afon ni ake egbeno ni court alo kojolo ya chon eya ha ni kwado kropon ma hegbe na meji ame na ake ameye na kan hegbe alo amebe na kan hegbe pekeke ni ewo amesanie eche afon without giving hearing to the appellant before summarily dismissing the claim. The lower court was in serious breach. Ake ne fie na kan hewo e atonwa ye boni eye amesanie ha me ni amrone be high court we ewo sanie keche fon wolone ete no e manokonomi nefe nokofan akeshin no oti krede ni kojolo ya domono ni eke fu alo egbo ni kwade okropo ma sane na akeba fon ehie echa efon yadamo noni e chona akeshin East Dadekotopon Development Trust has to be incorporated every 4 years, or that its mandate has to be renewed every 4 years to enable it to continue in existence or sue and be sued. Akeshin yegbejano to na e bi akeshin akranshin ye East Dadekotopon Development Trust e bini da fie dwemamlie asa na wole edamohie ko ye mlana incorporated ni agbene a trustee se hu ni yo no e bala akeshin ye afi edwefen mamlie a renew ame mandate e ha ame akeshin asa ke hewale abu amemlin eko nke ha ame ni chumo da afi edwemamlin boni afi ni kechondo no na kan trust ni di trust enye na siu e akojomo senye ni kedoko ba ho ni le anya siu la lo anya kesandi ashi ame ni bie na ni kwado kropon menchon na akeshin neke susumoni court we ya na ni no ewo na ewu amesane ya chefon e adamo gojiamlin akeshin ebe no mi ma kokrede fefe ni mlamni aya boasa ne kwalo aye saneko ni inchon na akeshin be East Dadekotopon Development Trust ye na kan shifimo alo ye na kan hegbe kegbe na ni no ewo kechon no ibanye ne ya court ne ya siu alo anya siu le tamoboni amefe na mekela traditional council leti kojomo saying here. The main fulcrum around which the lower court based its decision to dismiss the suit was that the East Dadekotopon Development Trust has to be incorporated every 4 years, or that its mandate has to be renewed every 4 years to enable it to continue in existence or sue and be sued. However, this is not born out of the record. In any event, the issue whether or not the East Dadekotopon Development Trust can sue and be sued had earlier in time been settled by the Supreme Court in a ruling in the case. Ni Abache case said, being a question of law, the High Court was bound to follow it and apply it to the instant case. For per Article 129, Clause 3 of the 1992 Constitution, the decision of the Supreme Court was binding on the High Court. It was therefore palpably wrong for the lower court to have refused to apply it to the facts of the case before it. That was indeed a serious fundamental error the lower court committed. Ake Supreme Court to energy Ghana Fair Court wulwe e boasa ne koni ketono na banya no shisho jogba na ale akeshin East Dadekotopon Development Trust ye shifimo ye nomima ye hewale ye na kan gbe na ni ebanye ya court ni ASU ni akeshin lower court high court ji many boa mesani emlamli shukwe kojolo ni tasani no esani e follow no ni enukpa ye ni ji Supreme Court judge say boa mlamli ni ekenu atuni alo enye no se shin e anye no se ni eyawo East Dadekotopon Development Trust Board of Trustees say asane tamoboni ayo say ye bi ene e chafon Ameteno ameke granted that in every 4 years, the trustees of the trust have to be changed and that the current trust as constituted, did not have the legitimate trustees to have mounted the action, these facts were in dispute and called for extrinsic evidence to prove them. Thus, the rule under Order 11, here, did not apply, and the lower court ought to have refused the application. But differently, whether the trust currently has legitimate trustees that constitute it was a matter for evidence to be led on the issue by the parties to the suit and not for the court to deduce it. Having regard to serious issues raised in the pleadings that could be resolved only by viva voce in a court by viva voce evidence, we uphold the submissions that the learned judge committed a fundamental error of law when it granted the application and dismissed the case in limine. Wabe court to a yemo wabutwine ni amenkolo sanjien fe amengblamling beanoni kule ebini kojolo niji amuyate esake chono ke heni eacho ni numlie keja amekwe ebemla na alo ekemla pagbe ke kroko mefe ni fata ni amesusu akeshi sanie ne boa ni kwado kropon niji klen akeshi East Dadekotopon Dev't Trust the board of trustees says no talo ke ba fo yin ni efomlian lo ewe che fo amesusu akeshi eke ni kwado kropon ke se biye eya jogba he was sani ni kwade okropon me ke ba fo amehin ake appeals court to be ni amemomlin twe eke the court of appeal concluded a judgment in the following manner. A chonboni court of appeal le boa isanie na eha ni bia na enwo ti ye bia na ke ba mu wasanie na eke overall we are of the considered opinion the appellant has made sufficient case invoking our jurisdiction to interfere with the exercise of judicial discretion the lower court in the instant appeal. The appeal succeeds. Consequently, we allow the appeal, set aside the ruling of the High Court, Land Court, Accra, and all its consequential orders delivered in this case. Akeni amebo ni kwado kropon mana yemoto edin ameyosi ake sani koken jeme ni ebi ni amebotu ojogba ni ameye sani e bonisa e was sani ni kwado kropon mekeba fo ameyin amemomlin ni kojomo ni High Court we kojo justice amuya teje kojoe amefomlin ten ke ehwon ni bi fe ni afan cafe ne kan cafe de ken fe afomlin ake tuning don yegbeko no. Justice, they say, must not only be done, but must be seen to be done, given the circumstances under which the application was handled and the cost the lower court awarded. We think to do substantial justice in the matter, we recommend to the Honorable Chief Justice to exercise his prerogative powers to cause the case to be transferred from that particular court and put it before another court, which we hereby do. Appellant cost assessed at 10,000 cedis. Meanwhile, information and documents in the possession of the victorious trustees show that since the delivery of the Amuyate ruling of 31st July 2017, the trust lands have been recklessly dissipated through the unlawful alienation of public roads, parks, and reservations in the carefully planned and approved layout of the trust estate. The trust lands have also been unlawfully and clandestinely cheaply alienated to some public servants and politically exposed persons with the hope of getting their support and protection and escaping accountability. In some cases, the prime trust lands have even been fraudulently exchanged with second-hand vehicles by persons who have never even owned a bicycle. In all these, the incomes have been diverted into private pockets and not even one cedi paid into the trust accounts at the La Community Bank. BNO tifio ni masmo madam nonima wiefie ke keje bemlini 2017 mamlinye ko toe woni kwado kropon masani e cha afan lo e abo amesani e blin to edin ni eaye eha ame be trade fair se shipon ni di chado shipon neke ahon tamama ni afolo la abayan ni ahon alo tofi alo kele wele ni ahon onupa ni amenchom le akeshin ame akwashipon no neke bia amlie ama ahon shipon fe clen no ake hey poni aje ye trade fair se ake tomo ake ba fe gbejegbe ake ba fe lolegbe ke agbene school ke ni bi efe no ja keshin ahon fe ke ha me ni ochine no mle what trade fair se wo lekeji egbeno ni achon he koshi ekenoje he wo chion ni no ja keshin he ko ni aje ake school ni kejigbe ke bi ni yo chado jeme egbe amebanya me a school ye jeme abala keshin neke school shipon ne ahon ye jeme ni wona ke me eboin ametwin mamoni no ni fefe hu ja ke get fund wona wole akeshin eje school chuma shishi ni amrone o na ye wo video emlin shi akeha no ja ke ankro bi ni no ja ke shin amemboy ametwin mamo ni bepo eba he ja ke wona wole ake ba me ake kole ahon ya mene e wo ye gbeko no ateni ayakumo neke majani bi ne ekumen ni ja amralo ne yakumo yi ni ake ba cha school no shi me ankro no ni no ja ke shin ahon ya ha alo ye gbeko no abala ake ni ashishinumo ya ba ye meni ni ne yo na kan jeme no he wonge ata yakumo twue ekumen ni no he wo moni ajiejeme ha anyeku ni akechu ni ojogba insane bi moji ke ate chado ngmene gbene ani abana public school tomoboni la wireless yo ni gbeke bi ni ameje he po ni shikabe amebanye na me ya school twa ye jeme lo ene ejisande ni inketa otuise meneji no ni chano amencho na akeshi the trust lands have also been unlawfully and clandestinely cheaply alienated to some public servants akeshi agbene huwe ahon trust shipon ni di chado shipon ke ha onupa ni somo amralo public servants ke man politicians komen bonia fe ni no ja keshi la traditional council leke amehewon cheye ni amewini favor ake amehia banyam ye neke man onupa ene ni di politicians ke public servant ahi ni kenoko abapoe ni man onupa ye anyeni afa amehi ni noko ekanye eba amegbeno ni eteke shiame eja ke be ko ye mko ye government emlin alo political leader ko krede ekole enye bala keke noko kra ebanye ni echomo he ni enye ni efa ohi wone ka me ye bi ene akesusumo ji ame lo shipon ji ke ha twa ye noko bibio hewo ni kechono no ni amena hefamo keje onupa ya de ni na agbeno na mechon ake onupa ko me ye ne kan fie dwema amle ne shipon ko me ameka chake no ja ke chonjin ke ekro ko me ni ake shipon dra waletan oneke ake chake choni ke ekro ko me ni bibi ni fata shi onupa ni no ja ke shi ameba kwa shipon no be fio alo amenana kan egbe na ameka hon shipon jin cheaply ameka hon shipon jin cheaply ni chebele na kan ma jan gbe me ame ko bicycle down ni bi ene jihe ni femi molofio ameka in some cases the prime trust lands have even been fraudulently exchanged with second-hand vehicles by persons who have never even owned a bicycle ni ekakeshi ye na me family mpo ko ya cheki trust ni ji la Dadekotopon East Dadekotopon Trust land say ame account ni yola community bank ona aganyepo akeshina ya hon shipon akekopo afon bank account emli ni akekra jeme alo ehiaba se na mo ke ha la me ewo be ne ke jiboni sani eji ni wo mu fe na krakra amemuna amenke akeshin the general public especially beneficiaries and victims of these fraudulent transactions are therefore advised to obtain copies of the Court of Appeal judgment of 16 December 2021 and advise themselves accordingly. Ahani nyefenye le akeshin eneji boamo ni Court of Appeal le keba. Ni yeke ha ni kwade okropon ni ji clen ye egbena amling. Ake Board of Trustees chairman ke ha East Dadekotopon Development Trust ni neke trust ne ache ni ekwe chado shikmo jien fen no ke kramo ke enibi kroko me fen ni fatai ni ahani o le akeshi be amro na ye sani eke ha ni kwado kropon ke ehwon cheye ni amameyo board of trustees say no ewo amekoya to ne ke judgment na copy koni bonwo kane ni agbene okewo ohenga ni keji oba ye ke ya chadogbe ni ole meni okeba shran ojogba ni wo se eka fe sani ke habo ni neke public notice alo shemo ni wokeba ogbeno ne money ni ne yo shishinji ni kwade okropon ni ji clen le ake chairman ke Owula Emmanuel Odueyemo ni leji executive secretary bieji wo hini woke wo amanie bo fen kenwa semlie obanu wo he ekon ye ni bi krokome ni ko enehe kaji ale no ye insane emlin gbala mo mlin ina ya thresh alo po ake iya jale emlin fichwe o fa ine kekemi gbeke bi bio jimi ke ina fufosa ni asan iya ko law school dan fi journalism himlai a he report mo ni achonwo ye journalism school le imo ni nke jale enemlin fio ke habo wo yi boy no ba anyo ke wa achon no ke wa awie agi 0241 431035 0241 431035 mini oboda itogba ashon ne nke Rosemary kokko anyigba ke Joshua Tawia Adom ke Isaac J nye twa no manyaba